the Simply Focus with Elfie Chani and Dominic Gilda for live enjoyment.
Hi, and welcome to this new episode. Please welcome your hosts, Elfie Cherney and Dominic Godat.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. We are in Santa Fe right now and having a great time here, exploring Santa Fe downtown and the history of New Mexico. And we are very excited to have Simon Lee today on Zoom with us. Hi, Simon.
Hi, this is Simon. Hello, everyone. It's good to be with you all again. Thank you so much.
It's great to have you here. We met you in Toronto last time, and it was such a great time with you together with your wife and all the people there from the Canadian Center for Brief Coaching with Hey Sun Moon, Boyon Ko, and all the others. And we're so happy that you can be here with us today. We have 15 hours time difference, so it's not
yes,
that easy.
That's right.
Like, good call. So Simon, you're managing partner of the Brief Academy in Singapore together with Edwin Tan.
Yes, that's right. And we've been together for about 18 years already. And we're really, fascinated with the work that we do ourselves and how impactful it has been creating solution-focused ripples across Asia.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing you have on your website too, creating those ripples really across Asia and taking solution focus further, not only in coaching, but also in other different settings. So Simon, what fascinates you with solution focus?
Well, I think, solution focus is just so simple. It's not easy, of course, but the effectiveness of it actually triggers a lot of follow-on activities and projects. Whoever we meet, they themselves will actually surprise, at the simplicity and the effectiveness. And every time we share the solution-focused ideas, people want to know a little bit more. And then, the desire to learn more about solution focus just continues to grow. And so we ourselves thoroughly enjoy doing it in the process of sharing. And we see how it can actually benefit so many people. Everyone from the low level to the senior levels, they all could see the impact solution focus have on their life.
So you now are doing this certification program for coaches. You work with organizations, and I'm very curious to look a bit more to the past and to the time when you learned about solution focus. So how did you meet solution focus?
So my first exposure to solution focus was actually with Mark McElgo and Paul Jackson. And when I first learned it, it was organized by my partner, and we actually were doing the solution focus coaching in Singapore. And prior to exposing myself to solution focus, I was trained in multiple coaching methodology, from the Coach U, corporate Coach U, results coaching, the Coach View. I have been through so many different models, but the moment I encountered solution focus, I just realized that it is so different, it is so effective, it works, and that just changed my approach altogether. So it was a major shift, a major shift in the way we approach coaching.
So what changed for you?
For me, things just become so light, and I have fun doing it. The clients were fascinated with it. The conversation spirals upwards. So we talk about what we want instead of what we don't want. And that just helped with the entire conversation. It just becomes so positive.
Yeah, and that's what we realized, what we saw when you were in Toronto with us. Such a playful, positive time we had there. And one thing you did was you introduced the 7 questions every leader should ask and brought us a cube with all those questions on it. So what is this and how does it work?
Yeah, so those 7 questions were created as a result of many team facilitation programs that we do. And we just realized that things doesn't have to be so complicated. We can simplify things and yet make the meeting much more effective. So the way we learned is that, we have to first connect with the audience. We have to first connect with the people who are in the room. So, what better way than to ask people what's going well, right? And what effective way to start a meeting by finding out about success stories, to find out about what is it that they would like to talk about. And that's how we start the meeting. And once we kind of get people settled down, comfortable comfortable, the rapport is there. And then we start to move into what's really important about meeting this time. So we start to review what's really, really important. That would be our second question. Right? And we realize that in a lot of the meetings that we go to, most people will start a meeting with an agenda. And the first thing they say is, what are we going to do to focus on? What's the big issue that we're facing today? What's the problem? And that didn't really help. So starting in a positive, light manner, like what's already working, what's going well, will help people to feel a little bit more comfortable before they even talk about all of the so-called hot topics. So we find that very effective in beginning the meeting. So we capture those in form of questions to guide leaders who are chairing meetings. And, to our surprise, when leaders actually use those 7 questions, they actually notice a change in the audience behavior. They notice that people get a little bit more comfortable about sharing authentically. And so we continue to do that. So we did the first questions, what's already working, or what's going well. Then we focused on reviewing what's most important. And after that, we talk about the benefits of achieving those objectives. And when people start to see the benefit of achieving those objectives, they will have the interest and the desire to contribute a little bit more. Then we ask them the 4th questions. So we ask them, what is it that they could do more, do differently, or do better in order to achieve the end goal? And so people start to come up with brilliant ideas. And more importantly, they come up with ideas that they can actually participate. And then we saw ownership. And because we see ownership, you can see that we see progress, in the subsequent meetings. So when people start to talk about what they are willing to do and what is their part in terms of their contribution, they own up. So, the subsequent questions would be like, who will do what, right? And by when? And how do we measure progress? So these things become so obvious. When there's ownership, people will talk about how they can see progress themselves. And when we start to do this, we just find that the room just become more active, and leaders who are chairing the meeting also realize that they do not end up having got to drive too hard. It is less draining, and the meeting usually ends on a positive note. And in fact, after the meeting, we realized that the participants in the room were actually questioning the leaders. They say, hey boss, how come our previous meetings are not like that? And because of that, the leaders decided to change the format of the meeting. And so the 5 + 2 questions just became the guideline for every subsequent meetings.
So really
and
do
to
more work.
Yes. And to help them remember those questions, we came up with the cube. I'd really like to acknowledge that the whole idea of the cube actually came out of a meeting that I had in Hungary when we had a solution surfers meeting, and Jesper, Kati's husband, actually shared this octanagon. And I kind of borrowed that cube idea, but the questions was more for a team meeting. So I think Solution Surfers Hungary actually had brilliant ideas on how to use the cube. So that was something that we borrowed, and I really like to acknowledge that. And it's just a little toy, a little reminder, item that they can put on the table before they start the meeting. So it's really that simple.
And you'll find the cube and the 7 questions in the resource section of our podcast for all people who are interested in knowing more and having it on your own table. What inspired us very much was when you told us the story how this cube emerged, and you told us it was really a learning process. It was not just you coming in with questions and they loved it, but it was a learning process with your clients. What happened there exactly that could benefit others on their learning journey when they work with clients to develop things like that?
I think the questions just came out, very smoothly. It was kind of fairly automatic. As we moved through the engagement, having the dialogue with the team, we just naturally focus on building the connection with the people, right? Determining what's really important, because when people come to the meetings, they want to walk away with clarity. And because they want clarity, we have to look at what's really important. And then when we start to look at, what the people could bring to the table, we also rely on the tenets of solution focus, right? That the people in the room actually do have the answers. The people in the room actually knows what's good for them. They know what needed to be done. So the job of the leader when facilitating the meeting, if we are focusing on the resources and the ideas and the strengths within the team, then those questions automatically came out. And it is only possible because, we have this foundations of being solution focused. So when we are solution focused, we are brief, yet we are effective. And that's how, these questions just emerge.
Brief, effective, and connection. These three words really strike me listening to you, and to have this focus on connecting people, because what I truly believe is when we start to connect people with each other, then so much more is possible, and authenticity, as you mentioned before, comes, and it's so much easier to have great conversations and meaningful conversations, and with that strive together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can we engage people when we don't even have the rapport and the trust? Right? So I think the basic foundation is to connect with people and build the trust and the rapport, and people will start to open up and they will be more authentic in their sharing. That's what we learn.
Especially also the trust when asking questions and seeing them as experts. It's really a trust building thing. One thing I wonder, you said the first question is what is working well. The second question is what is important to talk about in this meeting. How do you transfer things that come here to, you said, goals?
Well, I think when people come to the meeting, I think they want to know direction. They want to know the end game, right? And because they want to know what needs to happen, they will talk about their hopes and their expectations. So we will naturally pay attention to the needs of the audience, right? So because clients, or participants in organizations, they come to a meeting, they also bring with them some of their own questions. So if we just pay attention to what they are looking for, we naturally will arrive at achieving an outcome that is co-created, and that naturally translates to the goal.
And how do you do that, or how can leaders do that who have not yet been into solution focus that much?
So when they come to the meeting and they're not even aware of what solution focus is, naturally they come into the meetings with a hot topic or a complaint or a challenge that they're facing. So if we are solution focused as a leader and we know these questions to ask, then we are already addressing those complaints by question number 2, right? Because we all know that behind every complaint there is a wish, right? Behind every problem that they're facing, there is a hope that things could get better. So that's how we facilitate that so-called challenge or complaint or issues into the formulation of a new goal. Yeah? So that's the purpose of that question number 2. Yeah. So the sequence actually goes like this, just so that we get it right. So the first question we ask is, so what caused this success? And the variation of that question would be, what's going well, right? And there are many other ways you can ask the same kind of questions. Then the second question actually is about, so if things are going well, how did you actually make that happen? So it's actually an extension of the first question. Okay, what's going well? How did you manage to do it? Then the third question actually is the goal question. So what is the objective? What is the objective of this meeting? Then we talk about what are the benefits of achieving these objectives. And that would be the fourth question, right? So the fifth question then is, what can we do more, do better, do differently in order to move a step closer to our objective? And then the last 2 questions would be, who will do what and by when, and how will we measure progress? So I hope that clarifies the whole series of questions that we put together.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, very helpful. You mentioned the differences these questions make in organizations, and also that they, especially the employees, say, well, why did we have a meeting like that before? And they take that into the next meeting or do more of that. What other differences do you see? What other differences, especially what leaders do differently after applying questions like that in a meeting, do you see in organizations? Kind of what ripple effects does it have?
We actually noticed that the energy level in the room actually goes up. So it was quite obvious that people were more outspoken, they were more communicative, there was a lot more sharing. And guess what? Because we asked these positive questions, the people who are typically very quiet, the so-called people who are very introverted, they also would like to contribute. Why? Because they know know that the questions being asked were actually very appreciative. And because people who are typically very quiet, they also have ideas. Now they are more willing to share, knowing that their ideas will be appreciated by the person chairing the meeting using these questions. By doing this, we actually stop talking about the problem. We start to focus more on what we want to achieve. And that truly helps.
That is cool. And it's so easy once you got it, right?
Yes, and it's really amazing. They're so easy. And once you get the hang of it, your meeting also ended up more productive. And, you no longer have to have a meeting that is planned for 1 hour and then typically ended up having to last like 2 hours. With these 5+2 questions, you can actually condense your meeting. Even the most challenging meeting that I've attended, we can actually achieve this within like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's how effective it is.
That's brief.
Yeah, brief.
Brief Academy in Singapore.
Yeah. And talking about the Brief Academy, so you're not only passionate about meeting cubes or questions in meetings. So you're very passionate about training people to become solution-focused coaches. What is it that makes you so passionate about it and that fascinates you, or what you love about the work?
I think when we started Brief Academy, our intention is to create more ripples of solution focus across Asia. So we really told ourselves that we wanted to be the solution focus capital of Asia, where individuals and organizations can thrive on strengths. So that was our intention, and it actually became our mission statement. And once we started taking the first few small steps to get to where we want to be, we start to notice the attractiveness of using this solution focus, and people who learn solution focus continue to pass on the words. So it's really fascinating that as we speak today, whenever we run our programs, we realize that 90% of all our participants come to us through referral, and that really helps us because we don't have to do a lot of marketing and promotion. So the word of mouth, right, has gone out so well. People actually come looking for us. So we are really grateful of this whole idea and of being strength-based and solution-focused. Wonderful approach that we should share with a lot more people.
And Terry Pichot in our podcast last week mentioned that for her, solution focus really is an approach of attraction. So people come because they feel attracted, and this reflects very much in your story as well. I like that.
And people feel attracted when they hear from other people who had a great experience there. So what is it? What is your secret? What is that they do that they go out and feel inspired, want to do more solution focus, and want to have other people also doing solution focus? What is your Brief Academy Singapore secret? Okay,
so Dominic, there's one thing I learned very clearly from all the so-called experts in solution focus. I remember Insu Kimberg says, when we do solution focus, right, it's not about us, right? It's always about our client. And what we do, we want to be able to create an impact without leaving our footprints. And I also remember that, Insu wanted to be so generous to continue to share a lot. We don't copyright our stuff. We are very generous. We just continue to give. And because we adopt the same approach, people find it really helpful. They know that our focus is on them. It's not about us as an organization, how good we are. It's really about them as the client, how we can actually help them to be more successful when they become more solution focused. So our focus is on our clients. And if we continue to focus on the clients and continue to do a good job, I think the clients will want to know more from us.
And how do you do that in training to focus on your clients?
I think we let the client set the agenda. Although we may have our own agenda, but we really want the client to set the agenda for the day. So we ask solution-focused questions, right? And we learn this from people like Peter Szabo, Mark McCurgo, Daniel Meyer, and Insu Kimberg. We all, have learned these skills so well. And because they themselves are so generous, we have to mirror them. So we just do what our mothers and fathers of solution focus taught us. So when the client starts to create an agenda for the day, and we help them to find their own answers. They are happy, and when they're happy, they will give us good feedback, and then we continue to do more of what works.
So not only applying solution focus in the way you train, but also applying solution focus in the way you develop your trainings.
Yeah, that's right. I think the client is the one that is the center of what we do.
Yeah.
And you told us before that you've been doing that for many, many years. So how has your trainings developed over the years? And what have you learned next to what you already shared with us?
So when we talk about solution focus, we also realize that there are many other people who teach us similar topics. For example, the folks in the positive psychology area, they have their own positive psychology coaching program. And then when we learn by attending this program, we actually realize that they also share scaling questions. They also talk about the miracle questions. So I don't know, where they get this from. They somehow do about the same thing as us. That gives us affirmation that we are doing the right thing. And that also tells us that solution focus is working so well that maybe others also copy from us. So that's one possibility. But as I learn about solution focus, I also realized that people from other schools, people from the School of Appreciative Inquiry, and they have about the same ideas, a bit of a variation, but then the whole idea of being strength-based and solution focus is still pretty much there. The foundations are the same. So we learn from others. We try to integrate what works with solution focus. And when we share what we know with other people, they also come to realize that, okay, so maybe we can learn the what of strengths from appreciative inquiry, but we can learn the how of the coaching from solution focus. So you can actually come from different directions, from the top to the bottom, from the bottoms up, from the side, from different angle. You just massage your skills and improve on what works.
And you always arrive at solution focus at the end because it works well.
Yes. Yeah, it's really fascinating. I don't know. So we must have done something right with solution focus.
Well, massage your skills. That's lovely. So you talked about that you keep on learning from your clients and do more of what works. So I would love to ask you a little bit more about that, because this is something that really became very interesting to Dominic and myself. The question of how do we constantly refine our practice, and how do we learn from our clients and then improve our practice. And so my question is, how do you do that with your trainings? How do you evaluate them? Or
Okay, so I'll give an example. Now, when we talk about solution focus, we naturally will bump into clients who will challenge the ideas of solution focus. And occasionally they will say things like, but then, there must still be this thing called root cause analysis. So they will talk about problems. And they say, how can you be solution focused when you don't address the root cause of the problem? So this comes up constantly. So as we learn new things, we will integrate some new ideas into the sharing. For example, lately I come to learn about the conniving framework, right? The conniving framework is spelled Cynefin. It's a Welsh word, and it actually means habit. So the conniving framework helps me to explain the solution focus concept as well. So whenever I have people who challenge the idea that we need to always address the root cause, then my answer would be yes, you can address the root cause if the system is ordered. That means if it is an ordered system where things are very obvious and even complicated, you need experts to analyze it, that is an ordered system. You can continue to do the root cause perfectly okay. But when things are unordered, in other words, where the cause and effect is not obvious, in fact, the cause and effect becomes clear only on hindsight. In situations like this, in situations where things are complex, I think we have to adopt a slightly different approach. So problem solving may not necessarily work in this case. Solution-focused approach could be an option to consider. So, when we talk about the options of doing things differently, we're looking at a better way. So there is a better approach. There is a better option to consider. And so I realized that by doing that, we just position solution focus as a new engagement strategies for situations that could be complex. And especially in today's world, when we talk about the VUCA world, where things are volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, I think solution focus fits in so neatly as an engagement strategy for leaders and organizations to consider. So that really helps, and it helps to propel the whole idea of solution focus even further.
How do clients respond to that? Because we were talking about how you learn and that you implement other ideas. And then how do you keep on going? How do you evaluate what works well?
So clients will naturally bring their own stories to the discussion, and they will talk about times when they actually need not have to do the problem solving, right? So they say that, yeah, for the last 85 years, we've been taught problem solving approach. We've been taught methodology to do root cause analysis. But now with the idea of solution focus, they say, yeah, I can now do the root cause of success. And so they learn along the way. And because they themselves are suddenly exposed to something that is so unique, so they begin to like this process. And when they try it and they see that it works, so the buy-in becomes stronger. So what we do is, we say, in a workshop, we will impart knowledge, we will share, but we do it through experiential exercises. So we get the clients to learn through experiential learning. But then what actually happens is, after the session, when they try to apply what they learn at work, and they see that it has worked, they will come back and tell us, you know what, I did this and I am surprised it actually works. So when they share their success with us, it's reinforced, our belief that, this whole solution focused methodology actually really is effective.
So it's kind of learning from the success stories of your clients, the way how they tell it, and by that seeing what works in your trainings, and with this goal of a training is successful when clients do something different in their actual world.
Yes, that's right. So it is really about what happens outside of our training. When they apply what they have learned, then they come back and tell us, yeah, it really works. Yeah.
So really learning from your clients, and feedbacks like that also, of course, have an impact and effect on you again. So kind of you're on this upward spiral with your clients together.
Yes, yeah. It actually energizes the facilitator like myself, and we have had so many successes. And as I said earlier, I don't have a lot of clients, but I have clients who stay with us for a long time because they are able to create solution focused culture within the organization. So it is evidence that things do work, and what we practice is actually able to demonstrate the sustainability of what we share.
Wow. Simon, you mentioned your first encounter with solution focus was with Mark McCurgo and Paul Seth Jackson, and you work with Hae-Sun Moon and Bo Young Ko. You work with Peter Sabo, with Ben Furman. So a lot of people from the Western world, and you also travel in these countries. So I'm very curious about cultural differences. Well, are there things that work particularly well in your part of the world, in Singapore, Malaysia, compared to Europe, or the other way around? Things that you have to adapt. What's different between Europe and Canada and, Singapore and Malaysia?
It's really interesting that you asked me that question, Alfie. But in the course of the work that I do, I realized that when we are solution focused, SF just cuts across the culture. It really didn't matter so much. In fact, the language, even if we translate it to a different language like Mandarin, even in a Bahasa, the effectiveness is still intact. It works across different culture. We may speak a different lingo, but the effect is the same. So we can actually take what we learn from different people. We have tried it in China, we tried it in Indonesia, we tried it in Vietnam, I've tried it in Myanmar. It's the same. Right? It's the same. So solution focus works, in all different languages and different cultures. I like to see that as similarities as opposed to the a difference.
Wow, beautiful.
So we're talking about solution focus in meetings, solution focus in leadership, solution focus in coaching, trainings, solution focus in different cultures. So what differences has solution focus made for your private life?
Well, I try to spread this whole idea of solution focus even in the family. I have gotten my son, to come attend my workshop. My wife has attended my workshop. My kids have all experienced solution focus. The difference really is, for me, is the role that we play at home. So although we try and we can be solution focused whenever possible, our role as a parent, for example, my role as a father, will naturally precede, the solution focused application. So, for example, if I'm dealing with my kid, I can coach them the solution focused way, or only after if I know that my kids are safe. So if I am out there looking for my kid, not sure about where they are, then naturally my role as a father will take precedence over my role as a solution focused coach. So I think knowing the distinction between the role that I play at home will actually help me to know when I can use solution focus and when I do not use solution focus. So that would be something that as a parent I need to be mindful of. Right? But we try to have a solution focused family environment.
And what does a solution focused family do?
Oh, of course, we will ask them, what's going well for you today? What are you fascinated at school today? So we ask solution focused questions. And it becomes natural when you are practicing solution focus every day. Yeah.
And what ripple effects does that have on your kids, for example, or your wife, or on your environment around the family?
Okay, so they catch themselves whenever they are not solution focused.
Wow.
They will say, oops.
So Simon, looking back to your journey, your solution-focused journey, if there is one thing, two things you would love to share with other people from your experience, because they made a difference for you, or you maybe something, where you think, oh, this would have been cool if I knew that earlier, that would have been helpful. What would that be?
I think for me, I try to spread this whole idea of solution focus beyond the day-to-day work that I do. So whenever possible, I would try to encourage people, maybe even in the church, to consider adopting a solution-focused approach, especially when they are doing some ministry work, when they're doing some, say, helping the kids who are disadvantaged. If we are going out there to teach other people, adopt a solution-focused mindset, a solution-focused approach, and that might actually make the job a little lighter so that they don't have to feel drained. When you adopt a solution-focused approach, your work somehow becomes lighter. That's my personal experience. And, when I start to share these, people actually do notice that as well. Yeah. So if there are things that we could share with other people, like how can they be more solution-focused, I would encourage people to have questions that they would like other people to ask them. So for a start, think about positive questions that people would like to be asked. Write down those questions and then give it to the good friend and say, hey, I've got these 2 or 3 questions. It would be really good if you could ask me some of these questions. The next time we meet, ask me 1 or 2 of these questions. And then, you'll be surprised that you actually, enjoy responding to these solution-focused questions.
Is this the challenge of the week?
Yeah, why not? So ask a couple of good questions like, have your friend ask you, so how happy were you yesterday? That's a good question to ask. What's been going well for you last week? Ask these kind of positive questions, and that might just change the dialogue altogether. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Simon, for this lovely challenge. I can't wait to write down my questions for you, Dominic.
And I can't wait to ask them to you and see how our interactions change. So thank you very much, Simon. It was very inspiring conversation of different aspects that we talked about, always solution focus and always this passion and focus on ripple effects that really makes a difference in our world.
Thank you.
So now we are curious, to hear from you what went well with the challenge of the week and what inspired you with our conversation with Simon. So please let us know and comment on www.sfontour.com/simplyfocuspodcast and then go to episode number 39.
And keep on listening to Ken Brooks, who does the outro for us, and do what he says.
Yeah.
So thank you again and goodbye.
Bye, Simon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great episode again. Do you like the Simply Focus podcast? Well, help Elfie and Dominic spread the word. Give the Simply Focus podcast an excellent rating on iTunes and Google Play and other platforms. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And share your thoughts and inspirations with others by commenting at www.sfontour.com/simplyfocuspodcast. Then go to this episode. This was the Simply Focus podcast with Alfie Cherney and Dominic Godat, your podcast for a life in joy and ease.